Welcome to the Penguin Podcast, brought to you by Penguin Facilities Management.
So, Louisa Clarke. So, to start from the very beginning, I served for 10 years in the Royal Air Force, 1996 to 2006, where I served as a movements controller. I joined when I was 18, and in those days it was a very male-orientated industry. In 2006, I kind of fell out of the military. I'd had postnatal depression, and I'd had 10 good years. I'd had a commendation in the New Year's Honours list. I'd been promoted, but it just, I'd got to a point. I was suffering after having my second child, and in those days, the military was a very different place, and the support that I could have had wasn't there. And if it had been, maybe I'd have stayed, but it wasn't. So I fell out of the military. I didn't hand my ID card in, didn't hand my uniform in, and I just had to get on with it. We'll talk about that later because it probably rides into why I do so much veterans work.
Yep.
But I fell out of the military, and then I fell into FM, as most
everybody.
people do. So I fell into FM in, I think, sort of maybe a couple of years after leaving the military. My first job was station manager at Durham Tees Valley Airport, and I laugh about that now, because I didn't even know I was in FM. I didn't know what FM was. I just thought it was aeroplanes at the airport, and I was doing something similar to what I was in the military. And somebody said to me one day, you know this is FM, don't you? And I was like, well, it's cleaning, catering, and the bonded store and the ramp operation. They were like, that's FM. And I was like, oh God, they're penny drop.
Yeah.
So I landed in FM, and then in 2011, I was approached by a recruiter who said to me, there's an opportunity with a larger organisation that's growing. Do you fancy taking it? So in 2011, I went to work for the larger organisation, the privately owned organisations in FM. And I worked my way up from contracts manager to managing director of operations. In that time, I saw my portfolio grow exponentially. And then I sort of, that's how I built my career in FM.
Yeah, no. What a career it's been.
It has been, a marvellous career. I've enjoyed being on that journey. And then about 3 years ago, I'd actually decided to go back and do some qualifications, as if being a managing director of operations wasn't enough to do either. I thought, I'm going to go and do some more learning. So I went and studied and did my coaching qualifications. And I liked it so much because I realised, you remember when I was supporting one of your team as well?
Yeah,
and
Catherine,
I was
yeah.
doing that, and I was doing that voluntarily, and I liked it so much. I thought, do you know what, I can help more people if I do this.
Yeah.
So I took a very brave decision, and I think it's very brave, to leave my job and to start my own businesses.
Yeah, which is a very, very brave decision.
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, I started One Feather Coaching. Went on to do a few more qualifications, become award winning. I've got some global coaching awards and some other bits and pieces. And then a year ago, I hooked up with Simone Fenton-Jarvis, and we started the Human-Centric Workplace.
Yeah.
And that's what we have today. So we're building both those businesses at the moment.
Yeah, so obviously a career that has seen you go from a contracts manager to an MD.
Yeah.
Now you're working with many businesses from a coaching point of view and individuals.
Yeah.
You've seen it all.
Yeah.
And from the outside, how do we change that perception? You spoke, obviously, when you were at the airport, you didn't know you was in FM.
No, I didn't.
So how do we change that perception from the outside about FM?
We've got to talk ourselves up, haven't we? I think all too often we tend to network within our own industry as well. So we talk to each other, we tell each other what we do, but we all know what we do because we all work in the industry. So that's great, brilliant. Yeah, let's tell each other what we do. But what we don't do is we don't go and network outside of our industry. So we don't go to the other sectors and say, by the way, do you know how brilliant we are in FM? We don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of shouting about the good work that we do to schools, to other parts of society, the socio-economic parts of society where we could be bringing more people into the industry. We don't go and talk about the great work that we do there. We don't talk about the great buildings that we service. I mean, you can be in F1 one minute, can't you? Or you could be in Oxford University in the next.
Yeah.
But we don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Because if you ask most people what FM is, they'll say, "What are you talking about? The radio?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the radio?"
Yeah.
And I joked with you earlier, didn't I, about how often do you go online and you have to put like an insurance quote in or something in online, and you need to find the industry
Your
that you
occupation.
work in, your occupation. Like, where's facilities?
Yeah.
It's not even there.
Yeah.
So how would you expect people to choose it as a career of choice if we're not even going to talk it up? And we've got a duty to do that. It's no good saying other people haven't done it. We need to do that. So every time we go and do something outside of our normal network, why are we not then saying, by the way, do you know how brilliant my industry is?
Yeah.
So I think we've all got a duty to do that.
Yeah, I agree, and I would like to see more of that. It's something that we're doing. One of the reasons we started the podcast was to get that greater outreach into, industries that we won't normally reach out to.
Yeah.
Doing networking events that we wouldn't normally go to. I went out to Bilbao to the short shipping conference.
Yeah.
We work with some of the UK ports, and we saw it as an opportunity to go and talk about FM on a networking point of view, but also see, what their challenges are, understand, where their industry is taking them. And that's led to many, many more conversations of how we can help them as FM through them challenges. And if we hadn't have taken ourselves out of that, I love my FM events.
Yeah.
But as the last few years has gone, I've taken myself to go to, more manufacturing events, more transport and logistic events, the short shipping conference, going to a different country, to understand what the challenges are of these different sectors, because they don't always know what FM is. They know what cleaning is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know what security is.
Then we just get classified with it, FM is just cleaning or just security, when it's not, is it?
Yeah.
We know if you do the mind map for FM, it's huge, it's vast.
It's so vast.
But going back to your networking piece as well, I think it's interesting that it works both ways, because actually not only are you then showcasing FM, but actually you're also touching an industry that might have a solution to a problem that you've got. When we only network within our own industry with the people that we see all the time, which, don't get me wrong, I love all the people that I see, but we're not always solving a problem that we need to solve, where another industry has often solved that problem. And I think sometimes there's a richness about being with other people. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Totally agree. So let's talk about your coaching, your leadership. We've obviously known each other for quite a while. I've seen your start to where you are now, in doing what you're doing, and you're now about to launch a book. Which is crazy, but really good, because we know you've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience that others can learn from. So I'll
tell you a bit about the book as well. A bit about the story of how we got to this was that it must be the quickest, speediest decision I've ever made. So I happened to say to Simone, who said she was going to write her second book, because she wrote the Human-Centric Workplace. And she said to me, I'm going to write my second book. And I said, let me write the coaching part of the book. And she said, actually, why don't you just co-author it with me? And I instantly, within 30 seconds, went, yes, why not? So it was the quickest decision I've ever made. It's been a journey. It's taken, I think, nearly a year to get to where we are. It's in the final edit stage. It's due for release in it's February 26. It's due for release. It's been incredible writing it.
Two very different people.
Yes. One from a workplace background, one from my background, but very complementary. And I think that's what's brilliant about it. So you can see how we've interwoven both of our skill sets throughout the book. So there's very much a Simone perspective and very much a Louisa perspective, bringing in all of those kind of experiences that we've had. But I wanted to write a book, and Simone also, the book that we didn't have when we were going through our leadership journey. So this journey, this book, The Human-Centric Leader, is about leading from a human-centric point of view, very much balancing people, profit and performance, because I want to be clear, it isn't just a fluffy people thing. We also need to make money in our businesses as well, and if you can balance both those things, you can get the performance that you need. It's very much a book that you can pick up and go, I've got a challenge, how might I look at that challenge in a slightly different way, or what can I use as a framework that might help me when I have to go and give some feedback, or I need to be more resilient. So it's very much a book talking about human-centric leadership, but then it goes into a framework which we've just launched, the Human-Centric Leadership framework program, and that's very much about leading yourself. So how are we more self-aware? How can we understand about ourselves as leaders? Then what do we need to do to lead others? How can we lead other people and make sure that we are giving good feedback, etc.? Then what about leading the organisation? What does the organisation need from you as a leader? You know, do you understand the basics of finance? Do you understand your why, for example? You know, why are you doing it? What's your purpose? What's your values? And then the communication aspect, because it's great being able to have self-awareness. It's brilliant that you can, you know, talk to your team. It's great that you understand about the organisation, but if you can't communicate your message, then you're a bit stuffed.
You're lost.
So communication is the sort of final part of the framework, and it talks about, you know, how do you story tell? How do you communicate with your teams and your people? And so, so that's the book. I'm really excited for it to come out.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I can't wait. So Feb 2026.
Yeah, Feb 2026. You should be able to pre-order it by the back end of this year. It has just been in the brochure at Frankfurt's book fair. And you can buy it in Waterstones and on Amazon already.
Right.
It's not quite finished, as in it's just at the final editing stages. But
okay.
The majority of the work is done.
Right.
But they say everybody's got one book in them.
Oh, I totally agree because I've worked in soft and hard FM, and the stories that have come from different parts of, being, I worked in cleaning and did that contracts managers, did that sales role up to, director level. And there is always a story to tell.
I have to be very careful about the stories that I tell. So there's
we'll share them after, because I always make Ed laugh with some of the stories that and it's like, is he being serious? He's actually really telling me a story, or is it just made up? But no, they're all real.
It's a lovely. I always used to joke actually when I was in my corporate job that we should definitely write a book on some of the things that happened. But it's a really lovely heady mix actually, because you've got my kind of military background and that sort of world that I had, especially from a resilient point of view. Yeah. Moving into my journey to MD, and what the pressure that was faced, going through COVID, going through growing, what's it like to grow an organisation to that level. And then you've got Simone's, wealth of knowledge on the stuff that she's done as well, and that combined mix.
Bringing it together.
It's hopefully going to make a really great read for everybody. I've read it a few times now.
I have. No, well, let's look forward to Feb. And then another exciting thing, Plan B.
Yeah, so Plan B. I've been part of Plan B for a number of years. I will say that it was Liz Kentish that actually had Plan B originally, and myself and Simone, we agreed to take it over as co-chairs. So Plan B in FM is all about supporting women in the FM industry, because we believe there should be more women supported in senior roles, coming into the industry or being supported while they're in the industry, and seeing people like them. So what we do is we run a mentoring program where people come along who are in senior positions, and sort of more junior to mid-level ladies come along as well, and we then put them together in what I can only describe as speed dating for FM.
Right.
And they then choose who they'd like to be mentored by, and they start their mentoring relationship. But it's all about visibility, helping women see other women in the industry and supporting them along their journey. And it's global as well, so it's not, we're taking people from all over the world and showing what we can do. We still have a problem with women in board positions, particularly, especially from a operational point of view. You can see plenty of ladies, women in the more sort of shared services roles, but what you're not seeing is that kind of operational MD, COO level. I can name the women COOs on a few fingers, not even one hand, that I know in the industry, all of whom are doing a fantastic job. And you can't see it, you can't beat it, can you?
No.
So
I had a conversation with somebody else the other day, and we were literally going, and we did get to maybe 3-4 fingers,
and that's a disgrace, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a
in this day and age,
it's
a real disgrace. It's an industry problem. And it's how we change that. How do we change that?
Yeah, so firstly, you can't be what you can't see. So if you don't attract people into it, they're not going to want to be it in the first place. Once you get there, once you do get those women in those senior positions, how are you going to retain them there as well? Because it's just, it's no good just getting us into that position. Lots of things are impacting the flexibility of having lives outside of work, maybe menopause, maybe other impacting factors. These are difficult jobs that we do. This is a difficult role. It's stressful. It's all encompassing. If you don't have boundaries, it can completely overtake your life. So what we need to do is we need to attract more people in, and then we need to understand what's going to keep them there.
Yeah, goes back to what we were talking about before, and I've talked with others, it's that education piece.
Yeah.
Maybe we're starting that education piece and introducing to people to FM way too late in life. And that's why it's a fall into
that's it, isn't it?
Career path. So interestingly, your leadership model, coach based, how do you balance that against traditional methods?
Yeah, I think actually, look, I've always had a coaching approach to leadership, and I think that's why I was naturally able to take on the coaching role, in the sense that I went and read, got the qualifications, etc. Because I think I'd always had a naturally coaching approach to whatever I was doing. So for me, I think it's a brilliant. Every leader should go and do a bit of coaching, right? Because you're going to get the best out of your people. But I think from a leadership perspective, and looking at the sort of traditional, I would say leadership models more than coaching, we have to be prepared to be flexible as we move forward. We don't live in the same world that we used to live in before. We couldn't, I come from a military background where you would very much think that, people were leading from an autocratic leadership style, but that doesn't work if you can't always have that autocratic style.
No.
You need to adapt and be flexible. So you might need a democratic style, you might need a servant leadership style, you might need a bit of laissez-faire, but what you can't have is one size fits all. You need to be flexible. I think the future leaders, the people who are going to do really well, are those people who can be chameleons, those people who can turn it up, turn it down, turn it on, turn it off, depending on what's needed.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, and I think that fixed approach that maybe was the old-fashioned way isn't really applicable now. And I think, actually, I went to a TED Talk the other day, TEDx Teesside, brilliant, and there was a guy there talking. He'd written a book about generalists, and he was talking about how the future now needs generalists. And you might have thought about somebody saying that you were a generalist in the past as being, I don't want to be a generalist, I'm a specialist. But actually what he's saying, and I totally bought into it, was we need generalists for the future. those people who can be more than one thing and have touched more than one industry, and can be more than one type of leader.
Yeah. I think when you look at the generations that are coming through, the children that are coming out of school into sixth form, into university, that generation is completely different.
Oh, there was
to the last
5 generations at least in our workforce right now.
Yeah.
At least 5 generations,
Yeah.
and all of them very different.
And them 18 to 21 year olds are very, very different to the last.
They are.
And if we haven't got generalists, how are they going to cope later in life? They need them mentors, they need that coaching, but they need somebody who you just said that chameleon style, that can go through them 5 different generations and still get the same outcome.
Yeah.
And I don't believe there's many people out there that fit that bill.
I mean, I don't know how many people fit that bill, but I certainly know that if you think that you've got a leadership style if you've got a leadership style that's fixed right now, you're going to really struggle. And if you're not a generalist, with everything that we're adopting at the moment, AI and all of the other innovation that's coming in, you are probably going to struggle. So I would say that from a generational point of view, leaders need to consider what each generation needs, not just what they need. You know, I come from a generation which it was all about rising to the top, work till you're nearly dead, you know, for that one holiday every year. But that's not what our children or our younger generation want, is it? You know, I've got a 21-year-old who's thinking about, you know, he wants to travel. He's got his degree, he wants to go travelling. He doesn't necessarily want to get to managing director of X, Y, and Z, but he wants a role in an organisation eventually where he feels like he belongs, like he feels like he's part of something, where he's, you know, not necessarily highly paid, because it isn't just about the money. But then you look at the other generation that he's working next to, and maybe they do want the money, maybe they do want the bonus. So it's definitely can't be a one size fits all.
There's, as you say, there's 5 generations there. I was discussing last week, so the new mandates come through for obviously office and home working, and when I saw them numbers of, you know, 86% of CEOs or something, it was such a high number, thought that staff would be more productive in the office space.
Right.
So we're talking about, we don't know how many people can be them generalists. Well, if 86% of our top CEOs are thinking in such a very narrow-minded way, I think there's a huge problem.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, there's a huge problem. So, your veterans, I love what you guys do in the veterans. I've met lots of veterans in the FM industry. I come from a family. My mum and dad both served in the British Army. So I do watch Rowan. Obviously, he's still still part of the British Army, and does his bit. So it's quite close to us as a business, and individuals. You're doing some great stuff in the veterans world. You've got a real strong connection, which I think is fantastic. Why do you think veterans are a really good fit for the FM industry?
Yeah, so like myself, you know, I fell into FM, but quite quickly realised that because of the skills and the knowledge and behaviours I'd had from being in the military, what a easy transition it is actually to make into FM. So it doesn't matter what part of the military you come from, whether that be Navy, Air Force or Army, you have already got those knowledge, skills and behaviours you need to do well in FM. Of course there's some specialisms, but generally, you know, you have all that operational awareness. You've had hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on your training previously, and you will have led teams, you will have built things, and really it's really very well closely aligned to what people do in the military. And I could see it straight away, and I thought, hang on a minute, there are veterans in FM, but nobody's really shouting about it. And actually, why aren't we also going out there and attracting more veterans into the world of FM? We talk so passionately about how are we going to, upskill the workforce or close the workforce gap, because actually we know there's more people leaving the industry through age or whatever. How do we attract more people in? But yet we've got this whole cohort of people that we can attract, and it's a great job for them.
Yeah, because
the
pool of quality people is getting smaller and smaller.
Exactly. So it is a really good opportunity for those people, service leavers and veterans, leaving their roles in the military as they do and coming into the world of FM. The problem was, and the problem is, they speak a slightly different language to the military speaks a slightly different language to the workforce. And so it's been about how do we actually show and maybe work on that language. How do we show you what you can be in the FM world versus what you were in the military? So I think it's been about kind of closing that gap and making it a smoother transition. So a few years ago, I had this idea that we should have the IDFM Veterans Network. It was just an idea, but I thought, hang on a minute, how do we get the buy-in from the industry? It's okay, we can have these programs in different businesses, but actually, how do we do something that's bigger and that can bring the industry together more collaboratively? And I thought, that's it, we need the industry body.
Yeah.
So I approached with a couple of other people the IDFM, and it took a little bit of time. They changed the constitution, and we were allowed to have the Veterans and FM network. And we're all about that, attracting service leavers and veterans in. Once we get them there, we want to support them. So how do we pair you with industry leaders? How do we show you what the industry is made of? How do we show you the opportunities? How do we show you how to grow, etc.? And then retain. We want to retain people. We want them to stay
Which
here.
was my next question. How do we retain them? Because that is one of the hardest things in any industry.
Of course, if you take somebody who's a first generation service leaver as well, it's going to be more difficult, clearly, because it's the first step out of the military. So you want to have good buddy networks. You want to have an IDFM Veterans Network because they can come to us if needs be. You want to have a good veterans program if you're able. So what does this look like for me? How do we progress to that, etc.? Who can we go to? So there are things and steps that you can take to make it easier for them to transition. And then, like anybody else, once you get them in, you just have to be a good organisation, don't you?
Yeah.
You just have to be good to your people. If you are good to your people will stay.
Yeah.
If you're not good to your people, the people will leave. You can pay them all the money in the world, but...
I'm a big believer, if you're good to your people, then that retention of the clients will just naturally happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I think once you've gone through that attract, support, the retain bit is very much the same as it is for anybody else. It just so happens that we have this network that hopefully is a place that people can come to if they want to go and have that conversation around, one, the journey they've had, and two, how can they support other people.
So FM touches every part of society. We're just discussing the Veterans Network. How does the social economic background impact access to FM careers?
Do you know what? I think it's a bit like we've already talked about, right? If you can't see it, you can't be it. What we're not doing is actually tapping in enough into those socioeconomic parts of society. We're not tapping enough into the care leavers, to the people who might have been out of work for a period of time, whether they've been in the justice system, whether they're veterans. We need to showcase to them what the FM industry is, so that they know it's not the radio channel or your frequency. Do you know what I mean?
Penguin FM. Yeah, exactly.
So we need to showcase to them what a brilliant industry is, and then we need to make their pathways into the industry easy. We need to remove barriers to entry. But while we talk about things like service leaver programs, veteran programs, we need those programs for others as well. Like, what does it look like for you? What's the journey going to be like? How can we make it work?
Yeah.
So we just need to do a bit more work. We need to also, start from the very beginning. We need to be in schools.
Yeah.
We need to be in schools. We need to be in educational establishments. We want our children to be saying, oh, I might go and work in FM, because actually I might like motor racing. Let's use that as I like motor racing, and my entry into that might be I might want to go and be the FM that looks after one of the F1 teams, because that can be a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I can experience that firsthand, because I've got a child who's just left school, now going to sixth form. We went round 4-5 different colleges, sixth form colleges, and not one of them. Engineering was probably the closest to where we are. So maybe that's the starting point. As I said earlier, we need to be getting in earlier.
Yeah, but it needs to start at the beginning, doesn't it?
And there's an opportunity there for somebody. There's an opportunity there for one of the providers to lead that, but also for us as business owners to help lead that, so that there is more awareness. It's probably about time it happened.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know what a fantastic industry it is, right? If we can blow away some of the misconceptions about the industry, attract people in, as well as I do, the salaries are fantastic in this industry. If you want to work your way up the ladder, you can. Yeah. The barriers to entry are pretty low. And you can come in as a contracts manager and be a managing director. You can come in as an operations director and be a COO. You can, if that's what you want to do, you can. But we don't shout about it enough, and we don't show people those opportunities in the way that we should.
Yeah. It's showcasing the opportunities.
Yeah.
And we need to do that.
And it's, look at the size of this industry in terms of monetary value. It's billions of pounds, and yet we're just
not talked about.
Well, as we said earlier, you can't even find the drop down on the internet when you're looking for work.
Exactly. So looking ahead, the future of FM, if you could change one thing in FM right now, I think I know the answer. What would it be?
If I could change one thing in FM right now, it would be exactly what we've been talking about. We need to make it a career of choice, not an afterthought. Stop falling into it. Make it something that people actively choose to want to do.
Yeah. And I'm on the same page. So it's an easy change, or it should be an easy change. And thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Talking about it. I think it's such an important conversation, and topics that we've covered, and hopefully these conversations will make that difference.
I hope so too, but thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Penguin Podcast, brought to you by Penguin Facilities Management.